Rambo: Last Blood is directed by Adrian Grunberg, the same man that brought you a film called Get Him to the Greek. Based on a screenplay and a story that was co-written by Sylvester Stallone, it obviously stars Sylvester Stallone as the iconic Vietnam War vet John Rambo. Supposedly, this is Rambo's last movie, hence why the title of the movie is called Last Blood. Like, apparently there's not going to be any more Rambo after this one. Which, of course, could be total bullshit. Like, let's just say this movie does some good money, and then in a few years, there's a 6th Rambo movie that comes out, and that one, the title's going to be Rambo, oh shit, I'm still bleeding. Now, I'm going to safely assume that this is John Rambo's last adventure. After all, Stallone, even though he still looks good, is getting up there in age. Isn't the dude like 80 at this point? So in Rambo: Last Blood, John Rambo is enjoying the quiet life. He's retired, he's on a ranch in Arizona, he's been looking after his niece since the events of Rambo in 2008. His niece decides to go to Mexico because reasons, and then while she's in Mexico, she gets kidnapped by a ruthless Mexican cartel whose sole purpose is to kidnap women and drug them and then sell them into slavery. Now, of course, John Rambo has to come to Mexico because he's like, nah, you messed with the wrong one. Have you guys not seen my other movies? What follows is a series of escalating events that cascades into blood, more blood, a few broken bones, some bullets flying, and you know, all that good stuff. And in between, there's supposed to be some kind of movie here. So that's what we're here to talk about. Right off the top, I gotta give credit to Sylvester Stallone. He definitely is trying here. There's a good effort on his part to give a good performance. Granted, there's about 40% of his scenes in this movie where actually it's kind of hard to understand what Stallone is saying because that slack jaw thing and because he's getting old. And sometimes it slurs his words to the point that it's just unrecognizable gibberish. Just a few scenes where he's talking and he's like, and I'm just like, come again?
Said it's been a long time since I breathed a piece of meat or something.
Like, oh, okay, that's good intensity, Rambo. Sorry, I don't understand what you were saying, but I get what you were going for. You also get the sense that they nailed what they were trying to go for with his character, which is a character that needs something to hold on to. Some kind of humanity to keep his character attached to this earth. And in this movie, I think overall they delivered that. There's some of that trademark Rambo intensity in some of his scenes that you really like to see. And of course, Stallone still commits to the action scenes the way that he usually does. His body looks good. He looks like he's keeping in great shape. Gotta give credit to some of the gore and some of the violence in the movie. Yes, of course, it is gratuitous and a little bit over the top and kind of cartoonish at times, but final act in particular, there's some really clever stuff going on with the action scenes. A lot of it has to do with the location that the final act takes place in. It's kind of claustrophobic, has to outmaneuver his enemies, and he has to lure them in and do different stuff with them. During the gory sequences at the end of the film, you're kind of entertained, and you're entertained by Stallone's performance at the very least. So I have to say this with my entire ass chest. I said this on social media last night on Facebook and Twitter, and I'm gonna say it to you right now in this video. John Rambo deserved better than this. More to the point, the fans deserved better than this. We deserved a much better send-off than what this movie gave to me, because almost everything outside of the positives that I just mentioned is a complete and total disappointment. I think most of my issues in this film have to do with the story and the screenplay, which is painfully predictable, cliche, paint by the numbers, so safe and formulaic. There's nothing about the story that's compelling. You've seen a lot of the story done better in better movies with better filmmaking. You're gonna hear a lot of reviewers try to tiptoe around this, and then there's gonna be some reviewers that are just gonna come right out and say it, and I'm just gonna come right out and say it. This movie, for the first 70% of it, feels like Mexican Taken. And I know that Taken is kind of a lazy parallel and comparison, but the story and the screenplay in here is lazy. So I feel like I'm fighting fire with fire. That's the old John Rambo way. Fight fire with fire or flamethrowers or bigger bullets or, you know, whatever he uses to fight his enemies. It's the same concept. There have been other films since Taken that have tried to emulate that formula. There were probably films before Taken that definitely tried that concept, but in Taken, it was kind of perfected. It rebirthed Liam Neeson as an action star. This concept, this premise, this story has been done to death, and it's been done better. You're gonna be able to predict this movie scene by scene by scene. You're gonna be able to predict the ending of the film. You're gonna be able to see everything. It's just laid out in front of you like a red carpet. There's also a side character in this movie, an investigative journalist that serves absolutely positively no purpose to the movie. I'm not entirely sure why she was here. She's only in the movie for like 10 minutes or so, but in those 10 minutes it feels like she's only there because there's this really silly narrative choice that the film makes that I will not spoil. This narrative choice ends up adding more filler to the movie. Like, it feels like the plot needed to stop for a while so that we can have more montages until the plot is ready to get up and start walking again. I could probably forgive the formulaic approach to this story and the predictability of it if they at least tried to pepper the story with enough emotion emotional resonance to matter. Like the relationship between John and his daughter, everything about their relationship you're told through exposition. You don't really get to see or feel that carry out on screen. His niece, the main girl in this movie, not only does she make some insanely idiotic choices, one of which is the reason this whole story gets started in the first place, but she also has the personality of a half-eaten spork or something. Like seriously, the girl is she's just there as a plot device. No disrespect to the actress, I wish her success in the future, but ultimately, cry face is not a personality trait, I'm sorry. Even then, when you get to the action sequences at the end of the film, it's like, okay, this is cool, this is kind of inventive, but even then, you've seen this before. Take it like this. If you've seen Skyfall, if you've seen the first Equalizer film, guess what? You've seen the finale for this movie. By the time it was done, I sat there thinking I wasted my time. Rambo Last Blood is a disappointing Rambo movie that doesn't deserve anything higher than a guilty pleasure rating in Smallville. Guys, those are my thoughts on Rambo Last Blood. Tell me before this movie, what was your favorite John Rambo movie, if you have one? Put that in the comment section below. Please like and subscribe to the Superfan Show, and as always, if you like what you see, tell me how you feel, and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace.